Hello there, welcome to Mr. Mung Draws. This is Jojo. So when people talk about what makes Hirohiko Araki such a great mangaka, they often make reference to how crazy and memeable his legendary Jojo series is. From naming characters and their supernatural powers after popular music artists and albums, to the high fashion approach he has to character outfits. From a technical artistic standpoint, where Araki excels isn't in the fundamentals like anatomy and perspective, but more on 2D graphic design, creating interesting silhouettes and shapes to make his pages flow and guide the eye seamlessly. Taking all of this in, I wanted to capture the crazy imaginative design sense he has. What you've been seeing here is the brief planning phase before I got a bit fed up and started to draw. Up until recently, I've actually never planned a piece before. Most of my drawings are just doodles that sometimes fall into place. The final image definitely suffers from this inexperience. With the JoJos, Araki has acknowledged that he suffers from drawing the same face a lot, so as a counterpoint, I wanted to portray them with unique facial structure and bodies. Jonathan and Joseph both have similar faces to reflect the original transition from Part 1 to Part 2. I believe Araki kept their designs so similar out of fear of the backlash that a new protagonist might cause. Jotaro has a stronger, more protruding jawline as to emphasize his stoic personality. I always pictured him as having the most imposing stature, so he's got the largest frame here. With Johnny, his design is basically Jonathan's, but with the muscularity and eyebrows toned down. Josuke has a more rounded head and playful expression versus his father Joseph to reflect his more easygoing demeanor. The same can be said for Giorno as the youngest JoJo, who I gave the smallest jawline and body structure. With each protagonist, the bodies reduced in size to show Araki's change of style over time. We see the evolution from the 80s male power fantasy to the modern, more graceful toned physique that we see in Part 8 Josuke. In addition, I tried to make every character do something, perhaps to reflect their personality or interact with an object to make the image more interesting. I ended up with the picnic day out narrative, though I do feel it conflicts with everyone being in a tree. Kind of feels like it'd be more effort to climb up there, but screw it! Symbolism! Now with the colors, I used a very boring typical cell shading process, starting with grey leaning tones before going more saturated. A second shadow layer is added after the base. What is more interesting is that along the way, I accidentally shifted my original line layer too far into the blacks, which meant a lot of the nuance was lost. Like the lines looked as if they had been drawn in MS Paint, with just one solid color, as opposed to graduations as you would see in real life line work. What you can do, and this is something I picked up from a friend, is create a duplicate line layer and Gaussian blur it to regain some of the original softness, but it's no substitute from just drawing the lines well in the first place. So now it's time for the post-mortem analysis. Firstly, I definitely need to push perspective a lot more and try different dynamic angles rather than the same straight on view. This is getting a bit boring. Secondly, more time needs to be spent in the planning phase to create better composition. I flip-flopped between so many different ideas but never confidently dedicated myself to one. In hindsight, I can tell I was trying to push this circular motion up into the tree which spreads out, but it's disturbed by gold experience in Giorno over here, and I'm not quite sure where I put them in the future, maybe on the top right. You can also tell I was getting a bit fatigued after 30 hours of working on the same image, which is definitely another symptom of poor planning. I could feel my drawing, cleanup process and motivation getting worse over time. I know it all sounds like I'm being very negative, but honestly, you can learn way more from your failures than you can from your successes. And these videos are a good way for me to document and reflect on them. Maybe in some way they can help you too. Or maybe you just find them outright bizarre. So there you have it, every JoJo, from JoJo's Bizarre Adventures Part 1 to Part 8. So, when people talk about what makes Hiroki where Araki excels, the bodies in general reduce the bidets. You wanna know what's impressive? The fact that you've sat through a 4-minute JoJo related video and not seen a single Sorry, just clearing my throat. Thanks for watching and do let me know what you'd like to see get drawn next.